Hello there. This is Eleanor Wagner. I'm the author of the Sussex County Hauntings and Warren County Hauntings book series, and you are listening to the Ghosts in the Valley podcast.
I'm Cooley, host of Ghost in the Valley podcast. Today I have a returning guest on, Eleanor Wagner. She's a podcast host. She's a paranormal investigator, an author, and she was last on my show in 2023. So I want to welcome her back. We have a lot to catch up on. Welcome to the show, Eleanor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me back.
Like we had talked earlier, I was looking back on my archives and it says 2023. It was like 3 years ago. And so I said, yeah, we have a lot to catch up on. I think now you have 7 books out since the last time we spoke?
Total, yeah. Mm-hmm. The most recent one is actually paranormal romance. So it's veered away from the true account hauntings that I had worked so hard on regularly. So it was definitely going back to my roots because that was where I started.
I think I'm going to go down a list here, and I think I have them in order you had them come out. I'm not sure. Dream a Little Dream, Sussex County Hauntings, and Other Strange Phenomena, 1, 2, and 3. They had Warren County Hauntings, Other Strange Phenomena, and then you went kind of off the beaten path there, and you had a children's book out. Okay.
Right.
And, yeah. Then you have your newest one. Well, it took a year or so for you to write this for another book to come out, which is your latest book.
Right.
Abnormal Desires.
Yes.
Right. And so there was a long span there between your very first book, Dream a Little Dream.
Yeah.
So sitting back and say you were in 3rd grade, did you ever think that little Eleanor was going to have be an author of 7 books and a podcast and be a paranormal investigator? I mean, what led you down that path to begin with?
Sure did not think about it in the 3rd grade, but it was in the 7th grade when Mrs. O'Connor gave us a writing assignment to write a poem, and that's what inspired me. And so she actually was my book dedication for the Warren County book, because I happened to reconnect with her on Facebook. Facebook is that world that reconnects us with our past, right? And I was so thrilled to be reconnected with her. We caught up and I told her that, I was writing, and she was so excited to hear that she was my inspiration. And so I dedicated that book to her, and she was just tickled pink. I sent her a copy, and she sent me a picture of her with the book as she was sitting in her recliner reading it. So that was really a treat for her and a treat for me. But no, I never thought about it in the 3rd grade, but in the 7th grade when I started writing, I didn't stop. And I actually continued on with poetry and then dabbled in the short stories and got my first book idea. It had to have been in the 90s because I didn't have children yet. So it was before my children were born. And that's when I actually wrote Dream a Little Dream. And when it took me about a year. And when I was done with it, I stuck it in a box and threw it up in the closet in my bedroom. And I said to myself, well, I'm done with it and I'm happy with it. But at that point, I had been submitting stories all the time to children's magazines because I went to school to write for children. And at that point, you would get rejection letter after rejection letter. And so I think it was that fear of rejection when I finished that Dream a Little Dream book. When I stuck it up in that closet, it was like, okay, I'm going to breathe. I wrote it. Now I'm done. And then it wasn't until social media took that huge leap of reconnecting people. I think it was actually a high school site at the time. I can't remember what Oh, it was classmates.com. That's what it was. Before Facebook even came about. And I went on classmates.com and I said, I'm going to try and reconnect with my friends from high school. And I did. And one of the guys that I was friends with in high school had published a book. And I said, oh, I'm so proud of you. You know, it's such a hard thing to do. And then I opened up to him that I had written one and stuck my manuscript in the closet. And he was like, oh, no. You need to get that down and send it off to my publisher. And so that fear of rejection leaped up again. And I was like, oh my gosh, do I do this or not?
Yeah.
So I did. I took it out of the closet and I had it on floppy disks. My husband had to take it to work to find somebody who could get it off the floppy disks for me because there were pages missing out of the manuscript I had in paper form. It was a real chore, but I managed to do it and send it off to the publisher at that point. And they liked it enough to publish it, which was really exciting in and of itself because I remember when I went to school for writing, they had said, you know, if you send it off to a publisher and they want you to send in the manuscript and read it further, because usually you send in like the first 3 chapters, they wanted to see the whole thing at that point. If they say they want to publish it and they don't ask you to dish out any money, then you know it's legitimate. And so it was. And I was really excited about that. And that it just took off from that point on. I just didn't want to stop writing. I just kept going.
I know I've had many authors on my show from, writing on Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts on the line. And usually they stay on that topic. You know what I'm saying? I have a lot that's just on UFOs. I love it when somebody like yourself comes on who gets off that beaten path and you dabble in a children's book. And I think your newest book, correct me if I'm wrong, The Abnormal Desires, it's kind of different than your Sussex Hauntings books and your Warren County's books.
Oh my goodness, correct.
So now you're going into another realm of a fictional book, right?
I guess you could call me a multi-genre author. I did go to school to write for children, and honestly, I went to school to write for children because it was an opportunity that fell in my lap. It wasn't something that I said, oh, I want to go to school to write for children. It was an opportunity that fell in my lap. And I said, you know what? It's a great way for me to learn and then be helped in that field. So that's why I went that route. And then when I was done, I knew that my heart really was in horror fiction. I mean, I grew up with John Saul and Dean Koontz and Stephen King, and those are the people that I aspired to follow when I was writing. So it made sense that the first book I ever published was Dream a Little Dream, which was a psychological thriller. And if you were to liken it to anybody, you would liken it to Saul and Koontz and King, because those are the people that I followed. When I decided to publish the children's book, it was because I had already written 6 in the series and I went to school to write for children. So I needed to honor that because I did go to school to write for children. The hard part with that was I had given it to the publisher that I was with at the time. To find an illustrator was horrible. It was, they couldn't find an illustrator, or I couldn't find an illustrator. How hard is it to find an illustrator? So when I finally broke away from the publisher and decided to go the independent self-publishing route myself, because I was doing all the marketing anyway, I said, let me see if I can find an illustrator for the book. So I put it out on social media, and I did find a young college student that took on the chore, and she was supposed to do all of the books in the series. But again, it was like lighting a fire under somebody's ass. Like, how do you get them to move if you got 6 books and you want to publish them? And she did the first one and probably had the second one for about 2 years. And I finally said, maybe we should just say goodbye and part ways, and I will try and find somebody else who wants to take the children's story journey with me. And I did find somebody recently, and he's working on that first book, the Janine Bean meets Mavis the Camel, so I could send out a second edition with his illustrations, and then we can work on book 2 and book 3 and so on. Because I have a children's book for Christmas in that series that I wanted to publish, and it never got published. And then I have another one that teaches children about fostering animals and saving lives by adopting them out. And that one never got published. So now I have that in the foreseeable future, and I'm excited because I've had it for so long. But when you discuss the difference between the psychological thriller and the paranormal romance and the children as opposed to the true account fiction, I never thought that I was ever going to write the true account fiction. That just kind of fell in my lap again. I was at a writer's group, and we were all throwing ideas around, and somebody said, "Oh, paranormal is a big deal now," and it was like this ding, ding, ding,
Mm-hmm.
And I have been able to see spirit since I was a child, and I know you have seen spirit yourself too because you've written about it.
Oh yeah.
And I said, I love the paranormal. I've had experiences. I've had stories I could share. I love a good ghost story, especially a true ghost story. Let me just see, put feelers out there and see what kind of response I get. And the response was phenomenal. So that is why I wrote that first hauntings book about the county that I was living in, because there was such a cry to share their stories. And I never, ever thought there would be a book 2 or a book 3.
You were talking about the illustration.
Yes.
My niece just put out 3 children's books, right? That was her hard part, was trying to find an illustrator, because hers were basically on her 3 boys she has. And it was her first book was called The Case of the Missing Sock. You just can't find that missing sock.
Oh, cute.
And it's so cute. And it just goes book 1, 2, and 3. And she finally found one who nailed her 3 boys. You know who she's talking about when you look at these pictures. So she kept that illustrator on for book 2 and book 3, because like you said, they're so hard to find that you can.
They really are. You also have to have a rapport with that person. They have to be in a certain behavior with you so that they could understand what you're trying to put out. See, most people that write children's books illustrate their own books, but I'm not artistically inclined in that way. So I had to find an illustrator. So I had to find somebody who would listen to what my thought process was, what my vision was, and see if they could put it out there. I had a lot of responses and had a lot of people to choose from. And it was really an eye-opener as to how different artists' styles are. Everybody is so different. And then you just have to find the right person for your vision. And the man who did the cover of Abnormal Desires, which I actually have right here so I could show you, his name is Lawrence Mascara. He did it exactly like I wanted.
Yeah.
And
I love that cover. Yeah.
He did a great job. So I said to him, "What do you think about trying a children's book?" And that's where it came. And so I started just giving him descriptions and details on the different characters, because the children's book's got 7 different children that are part of the same group, and each story involves some of the children some of the time, but the main character, Janine Bean, is always in the story. And he's just got it. He just nabbed it, just like your daughter said, got her 3 sons, or did you say 2 sons?
Oh, my niece, yeah.
My book is
her 3
her children,
boys.
right?
Yeah, right.
And my Janine Bean is kind of like a combination of my 2 daughters. And he's nailed it. So it's really exciting, because that's out of all the writing projects I've had to do, that has been the hardest. Finding the illustrator, and now I have somebody.
And you're working on another book, children's book. I think I read it somewhere. You're working on another children's book. He's working on the illustrations for the first book, because I'm going to put out a second edition with his illustrations. And then we will go into working on a second in the series. Yeah. But I have a lot of things going on right now, because Abnormal Desires was actually, I didn't know if it was going to be a novella or a full-blown book. It was taken from a short story that I wrote way back when I was in high school. The next book that I'm working on, which is a time travel romance, is also a short story that I wrote years ago that I'm just expanding upon. So I like to go back to the stuff that I've written and see if I can turn it into, and it might be a novella or it might be a full-blown book. I just don't know it. I don't know until I'm writing it and the characters
tell me what they want. But I still have everybody screaming for the next hauntings book. Like, where's the hauntings book? Where's the hauntings book? And I still do paranormal investigating. Right now, that's what I'm shooting to get that out by the summertime, because people have been crying for it. But I had a rough 2 years. I don't know if I mentioned it to you. It was a rough 2 years moving to North Carolina and being a snowbird from North Carolina and New Jersey. It's been really a struggle. And so I didn't pick up a pen for the whole time that this was all happening.
Yeah, I didn't know you moved. I didn't know you went to North Carolina.
Yeah, we're snowbirds. My one kid is still in Maryland, and my other one is still in New Jersey now.
Okay.
So we're kind of going back and forth. But it happened sooner than we thought it was. It's a long story. I'm not even going to get into it. But it was a struggle for 2 years.
What led you to write this book, Abnormal Desires?
Okay. I just don't know.
Yeah, you went straight off the beaten path from hauntings of Sussex. And
you knew I wrote Dream a Little Dream. When I was going to write the second psychological thriller paranormal story, I went into my stash of short stories that I had written back in the day. And I pulled that one out and I was like, oh, I think I want to expand upon this. Because what I like to do when I'm writing those books is I like to bring where I live, the community, into it. So when I started writing Abnormal Desires, Sussex County is in it, and so is Dingman's Ferry, Pennsylvania, which is just over the border, and so is Warwick, New York, which is on the other side. And they're all places that I've grown up in or visited or frequent. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to bring those areas into it because it's part of my community and people like to read about the places where they're at. I was bringing it back into the 1900s, so I really had to do a lot of research on the areas back in the 1900s, which was fun. You know, I got to talk about landmarks that were just put up and growing communities, and the town that I actually lived in for almost 30 years was prospering and growing and really successful back in the 1900s compared to what it was the 30 years that I lived there, because it was dilapidated and falling apart and people were trying to revive it while I lived there. So to actually find out in history that it was really a hopping place. Oh, yeah. So it was fun to incorporate that into the story while I told this young girl's story, and it has to deal with trauma. And I don't want to give away too much because it's actually something that you don't expect and just happens in the book, but it does deal with trauma and secrets and the paranormal, and there are ghosts in it because I'm a ghost lady. So, but yeah, so I really don't know why I wrote it. It just came to me one day when I did write it back in the day. And like I said, I was just pulling it out of my stash and decided to expand upon it, which is exactly what's happening with the time travel book that I'm working on. It's something that I pulled out of what I started, and it's growing into either a novella or a book.
Are the characters in the book, are they based off of people you know, or just?
No, I don't always do that. I might. You know what? I'm gonna correct myself on that. I usually take pieces of the mean people from people that I don't like, that I've met that, are not nice. Okay. And I kind of like use them as the, pieces of them to be the bad guy or girl in a story. But no, I don't really use them for any of the other characters. The names, I love to pick out names that are, I guess you could say, antique or old or historical. I just love those old names. So I'll usually have like a list of names that I will pull out to name my characters. Like just like when you have I have 2 kids. I didn't have one. Oh, I would have loved to name my kid this, so I named my dog that. You know what I mean? I can name my characters anything I want to. So I pull them out of my name hat. That's the stuff I like to do.
Now, you think this is going to be is this a standalone or could be a series?
Oh yeah. I am not really one of those people that is into everyone's into these book series. They want to have book 1, 2, and 3. I'm just not. I mean, everybody said, oh, are you going to write, a second book for Dream a Little Dream? And I'm like, no, Victoria and Karen, they're done. You know what happened to them, and that's it. And in Abnormal Desires, it's the same thing. Eliza and her love interest their story is over and I'm not going to do anything else with it.
Now you're talking about the Sussex County coming out with another book. It seems like it's such a very active. I don't know the area, but I know with your book series that it has to be very active with.
But every area really is. Everywhere you go, you're going to find it. I mean, the people in Sussex County are more open to sharing their stories, so that makes it easier for me. But I do have, like you saw, the Warren County, that's a connecting county to Sussex County. When I was looking for those stories that people were sharing, I got stories on different counties. So the one that's going to come out in a couple of months is Morris County. But I had to add Sussex County into it because I still have so many stories from Sussex County. So it's going to be like a joint book. It's going to be a Morris and Sussex County hauntings book. It's going to have both counties and the other strange phenomena chapters in it. But it's also a really good one too, so I can't wait to get that one out because it has a lot of great stories in it.
Yeah, my county just made a national news with the Bigfoot sightings,
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you look it on Google, look it up. It's
I'm gonna now.
Portage County and Trumbull County of Ohio had 8 sightings in 5 days, and I'm going to do
wow.
I'm going to do the trail that they were sighted on in a couple months. Me and a buddy of mine, we're going to walk that same area that Bigfoots were sighted.
You think it was legit? You think these were legitimate sightings and any?
I do think they were because they were on. If you look at the map, the way they were spotted, they're called in by different people, and I don't think it's not the same Bigfoot. It's like I won't say a tribe of them. Like there was like a 6-footer, an 8-footer, 10-footer, brown one, black one. And they're calling it maybe like a migration route, like these animals, usually the deer take and the other critters. They're following the same route from Portage County, Trumbull County, and they're moving south to southeast, like towards Pennsylvania. I just had a question, a few of them, but these ones that were actually made the Bigfoot network was, I think, legit. Just by looking at the map. I've never seen a Bigfoot, so I don't know. But the sightings and the way they were explained, I tend to agree with it.
Wow, that's cool. I'm going to have to look that up.
So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool when your county is involved in something that made national news. We didn't make national news until like it was 1999 when Trumbull County was on the Art Bell Coast to Coast Radio on the UFO sightings over our county into Pennsylvania again. And that involved 10 law enforcement departments.
When you deal with people that are like in law enforcement or state rangers or even like teachers and doctors that are going hiking or, I even in the interviewing that I've done with Bigfoot stories and UFOs, these are people that are just like you and I that are saying this happened. I don't care if you believe me or not, but you asked me to tell you my story and here's my story. This happened and you can believe it or not. We've had similar stories with UFOs and that, law enforcement were right there. And back in the 60s, I actually interviewed a man, I believe he's like 87 or 88 now. He might even be older than that, but he was at the Wanacue Dam in, I want to say it was the 60s when there was a huge sighting over the dam. He was on the force and he and his partner were right there, sent while it was all happening. And they were afraid to talk about their experience because they were up for promotions and they didn't want them to say they were crazy. So they just talked amongst themselves for years until they were retired. And then they said, I'm not going to hide it anymore. I'm just going to tell everybody what happened. And so, he admitted to seeing this and experiencing this and, and the government covering it up because he had a camera with him at the time. He had taken pictures and they confiscated his camera and he never saw it again or the pictures. So, it does happen. And you were talking to legitimate people that are of the right mind telling you these things. You have to say there's some truth in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, with some of these people out there that because of AI, you really have to question some of anybody's sightings because they can make it look so real, audio and video. Yeah. So it's so hard to distinguish, what's real and what's
nowadays
not
it's
anymore.
Harder.
So I get so much of that, and I do agree with that. You have to weed out what you think maybe they just trying to latch on to the news. You know what I'm saying? I was going through some of your posts, today, and I came across one. I think it was on your Creeping It Real. You're talking about the safety coffin. I came across that. It was the 18th and 19th.
Oh, at the
century.
Saved by the Bell.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
I tell you what, that's one thing that I have. That just kind of like hit you, that they actually did that.
Yeah, to hear that happened, and they also somebody had made it a point, which I never had heard, the midnight shift or I think it had something to do with the midnight shift or something where they're after hour. The reason why is because they would have somebody out there to listen to see if the bell rang. Isn't that crazy? I'm not afraid of ghosts, but I think I would be freaking out if somebody was ringing the bell from inside their grave.
Oh yeah. And to think that you're under the ground, you're in a coffin.
Oh my God.
And you're like, what the hell? I mean, you can't. Even if you're underground, you're hoping somebody sees you raise that flag or ringing a bell. I mean, you're 6 foot under. I mean, hopefully they can hear you or see your flag or looking at you. I know. Yeah. I know when I go through a cemetery, I like to look at some of the graves. I don't know who they are.
Oh, I love it. I love looking at them.
I was the one in near EPA, and it's just fascinating because if the cemetery is built in 1850, put together in 1850, but you have a tombstone there that says 1825. So if you didn't make this community cemetery until 1850, why is this here? Well, I got to talk to one of the groundskeeper, and they said, because how family wants to keep the family together, so they'll move that casket to that cemetery because they're built on family plots or church graveyards or whatever. So they moved that that grave. He says, but that's where they have the most activity, because if you left one part of that body is not brought with it, then they have some reason that area is more active than say the rest of the cemetery. That just blew me away with that safety coffin.
There was a movie out, and I don't know how long ago. It might have came out 10 years ago. Liam Neeson was in it. And Liam Neeson, I never saw him play a bad guy or a creepy guy, but in this movie, he plays a creepy guy. He's like a mortician, and it has to do with burying people alive, and it freaked me out. So if you ever want to, if that's something that scares you, that's you like a good scary movie, look it up. It was really... I don't like thinking about being buried alive, that's for sure.
I want to get to your paranormal investigations. Do you still investigate?
I do. In fact, you had mentioned about me being a podcast host. I have both my podcasts on hiatus right now because I really felt like I was having less time to devote to my writing and the paranormal investigating, which is really where my joy is. So when we moved to North Carolina, I still had my New Jersey Spirit Hunter group in New Jersey, and people were still contacting me about investigations. So I would arrange for investigations for them to do up north. And if it was a time when I was visiting, I would be able to partake of investigations there. But here in North Carolina, I was like, I want to paranormal investigate. So I went online trying to look for a local group, and there wasn't anything near where I am now. So I connected with a woman she was from up north too, actually, New England, and she's down here now. And she's like, oh, I was looking for a group too. Why don't we start our own? So we put it out there on social media, which is the go-to. And we actually interviewed people and had questionnaires, because when you're forming a paranormal group, you really want to have a little bit of everything. You want the person that's, going to try and debunk things, the skeptic. You want the mediums, the sensitives. You want the equipment people. You want the history people. And you want to have a nice group of people that you get along with, that you can go on these investigations. So I started the North Carolina Spirit Hunters. And we just did an investigation. Here's a funny story. I get this message from my friend up north in New Jersey, and she says, hey, I was just talking to this college student that's one of my students in my class, and he's doing working in the film industry or something having to do with filming, and he was looking to do a documentary on the paranormal. So she said, I'm giving him your information, so he's going to reach out to you. I said, oh, great, I'll look for it. And so I'm, waiting for an email to come in, and I get this email from this college student asking, if I'd be interested in doing a documentary on the paranormal, because he wants to do it for his film class or his whatever they have to do, right? I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the kid that I was looking for that my friend told me about. So I'm thinking this is supposed to be in New Jersey somewhere, but this kid that I'm talking to is here in North Carolina. I'm going, well, that's really weird. She didn't tell me he was in North Carolina. So I make all these arrangements with this young student here in North Carolina. It turns out it's a totally different kid, and it's not the one from New Jersey. What is the coincidence of that, right? Two guys looking to do paranormal documentaries. But we just actually filmed it this past weekend. He had asked me to find a local place that was haunted, and would they be able to come on site and do an investigation with us. And so we did a preliminary interview, and then they did a preview interview before we did the investigation in the location. And then my team came, and his group of film students with their equipment came, and we had the investigation with them there. And it was really good because I had told the shop owner, I said, make sure you tell the spirits we're coming, let them know that we're coming and we're going to film it and then we're going to tell their story. So this way they get all excited about it. And she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I just started talking to them again. And she said, the activity has amped up. I'm like, great, that's what we want.
Uh-huh.
And when we did the investigation this weekend, it was great. We had such great activity, and they got it on camera. So I can't wait to see the finished product. And I can tell you, it was legitimate. It happened. I was there. The stuff happened. We didn't make anything up. It was real. And that's what this kid wants to do. He said, because when he first interviewed me, he was interviewing me because he wanted to have a paranormal investigator's take on a paranormal investigation. And they were going to do a documentary on some historical place here in North Carolina. And then after I told him, I said, you got to understand, a paranormal investigation can be really boring. You can go and you can spend 6 hours there and nothing will happen. Okay. It's not like this paranormal show you put on TV and they run screaming because they're afraid of what happened, or it's not real. Okay. And I said, I can tell you it's not real because I was scouted for a show, and the director told me that if nothing happens when we do the show, we have to make it happen. And we were like, no, we'll recreate something that happened, but we're not going to just pretend that something happened that didn't happen. So I could tell you that most of it's made up just for entertainment. And that's what he told me. He said, well, we're trying to entertain the public. We're all about entertainment. So the kid was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah. Things don't happen that way. And, we don't like to interrogate the spirits and instigate arguments with them or anger them. We're there to respect spirit. We're there in their space, and we want to tell their story, and we want to try and help them move on. It's nothing like the television program. And he was just shocked. This kid was like, well, then that's what I want to tell the public. I want to show them that what they're watching is not real. This is the real thing. I said, oh, okay. And he goes, well, can we go on a paranormal investigation with you? I said, well, what about the place that you wanted to do in the historical? He goes, no, I'd rather go on an investigation with you and see it firsthand. I was like, all right, let me see, what members of my team are on board, because some people are funny about getting on camera and stuff like that.
Private house or private hunting?
Well, it was a former house that a shop owner, she opened up a gift shop in it. It was once a home, but it is now a gift shop. It also has antiques. So you knew that you were going to get stuff coming in on the antiques, the attachments. But so when we went there that night, we did have ghosts that had just come in recently because they came in with objects because she wasn't saging them. Like I told you need to sage this stuff or else you're going to get spirits, one of the spirits that we connected with was a little girl spirit that has been there on the property before the house was put up. And we had connected with her the first time we did an investigation in there last year around this time. So we came back and the same spirit was there, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, you're right. Almost every place is haunted. I mean, you can't, just on this podcast, I open my eyes up, and no matter every corner of the world, I've had guests on from Ireland and Scotland and England and multi-coast and New Zealand. And it's like you're telling my story, man. It's in my book. So it's like, it's unbelievable.
People they just don't realize that, just because a house is new doesn't mean it can't be haunted. It's on property that is old, and you don't know what was on that property before. I mean, and a lot of houses are being built on old Indian and Native American land, and or places that battles took place, and you just don't know what's there.
And I do a protection prayer before I go in, and one before I leave. Just that's just my own thing I do.
Oh no, we do too. We are all about saying the prayer and saging before and after. And I'll tell you, after doing the investigation this weekend, there was one spirit that was he was kind of angry. I don't want to say he was mean. He was angry because he was very protective of the little child that was there, and he just didn't want us there because he thought we were there to bother the little girl. I mean, in the end, we ended up making him understand that we were there in friendship, you know what I mean? But it took us a while, and he wasn't really nice at first. And he made me so sick. I have not ever felt, I mean, I call it my foofy feeling, and I usually am off balance and it feels like I'm drunk, but he made me so nauseous. I had to sit down. I was like, oh my gosh, like, really, dude, we're just here to tell your story. And I had, honest to God, that's the first time I ever felt that bad. And so we, sure enough, even though everything was copacetic by the end of the night, we still sage ourselves and say a final pray you can't come home with us, that kind of thing, because you don't want to bring anything home with you. My husband would not be happy.
No, neither would my wife. That's why I have a cross on my wall over here. I got one behind me, because I have some wild and crazy guests on the past 8 years, And I let everybody tell their story, because God knows I called crazy my whole life with my stories, I was on a podcast not long ago, and they asked me why it took me 50 years to write the book. I said, well, we didn't have social media back in 1967. We didn't have Google or anything you can go to. Who do you talk to? So, and my parents sure didn't believe me. Nothing happened while they were home. So it was my sister, my brother. I mean, there's numerous people that have witnessed it. So when I did my book signing a couple of years ago in Warren, Ohio, that's where the book's taking place, right? These people's walking up to me that know the area. They're telling me stories that
of their own accounts of that area
near my home. So like the one cop kept giving me the evil eye. You know what I'm saying? My wife was saying, "It looks like he wants to kick your ass or something." I said, "It sure does. I don't know what it did to him." Or, he walks up to me and says, "Dude, my dad did that patrol of that home back in '67. I know all about that." That house. So that was interesting. And in my book, I talk about the courthouse and a log cabin and the river. And I'm sitting at the corner of the church where they had the ghost walk with thousands of people coming through, where they offered me a spot to sell my book there. And it was so awesome that, getting to meet people and that they knew the history, they knew the area. And here I am looking dead on at the courthouse, the log cabin, and the river. I says, all this stuff is in my book, so that was special to me. Because I had it.
Sure, it was like affirmation too. Like you felt that they were telling you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
I love that.
So do you like getting out there and meeting the people? Do you do book signings?
Oh my gosh, I sure do.
Okay.
I really, really do. Especially when they're so open themselves. Like when they open up to you and they say, "Oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're talking about," or "I've been there and I definitely had." Like when they can connect with you on that same level. It's really nice, because then you don't feel as crazy as you thought you were. You know what I mean? Like I don't anymore, but especially when I first started out, it was kind of like, am I crazy?
There's more people now that might have a better understanding of UFOs or Bigfoot or hauntings, and you like you're saying, you honor the dead. You don't go in there raising hell and trying to stir up trouble and calling out spirits you don't know nothing about. Yeah.
The government releasing all the stuff on the UFOs has also helped that arena. You know how everybody was always wondering, well, why aren't they talking about? Well, now they're releasing the fact that these UFOs are out there and military is opening up. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit before we get off here on you had this book club you're running.
Yes. The one that the authors, supporting authors.
Yes. I thought that was a fantastic idea. I mean, you helping independent authors out there, and the way you have that set up and picking each other's books. And I would have stayed in it, but I'm playing in a band, I'm playing on weekends, podcast.
Oh, I understand. Not everybody that I tell everybody that's a member on the page, you don't have to participate in the book read every month. That's optional. But it's a great way to connect with other authors and have conversations. Now we've opened it up to readers. So readers have joined the group. And now I have featured authors every week so that people can sign up to have a week where they can come on and they can share their books, connect with their readers and, just answer questions. And it's just, I have gotten a really great response from the people that are on the page, and it makes my heart smile because, we all need support in what we want to do and what we do, and it makes a difference.
Yeah, because when you're doing your own advertising and marketing, and it can get
hard.
Expensive, and get people out there to review a review or response or anything, including family members.
Do you have a problem with those reviews? It's really hard getting reviews.
It's
people
terrible.
will read the book, but to say, please review it, please review it.
I don't want to beg for a review, but even family members that don't leave a review. I mean, and you say how important it is, and I don't know if they don't know how to do it, or I mean, it's like anything else on Amazon. If you buy a sweeper, you're going to leave a review on it.
I don't understand it.
So, I think that's a fantastic idea on what you did there with that book club. That was different.
So if anybody else out there that wants to look for a book club or their next read, it's Eleanor Wagner's Authors Supporting Authors Facebook page. Come on and join us. You just got to answer a few questions. I'll let you in. We just, I don't want the people on the page to be bombarded with, I'll help you market. We're there to help each other and look for good books to read by good authors.
I met the author and I friended him on, I think it was Goodreads, followed him. And what do you have coming up?
Well, I'm trying to find the local book events here in North Carolina. They're not as prevalent as they are in New Jersey for some reason. So I'm getting myself out there. I have another investigation coming up in a local area. So I just try and keep myself busy in that respect. But I am focusing on those two other books that I'm working on and getting children's illustrations out. So that's kind of my focal point right now. I'm on, when you get on a roll and you don't want to stop.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to keep that rhythm going. I don't want to lose it again.
It's been fantastic having you on the show again. Hopefully we'll wait another 3 years,
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Eleanor Wagner, author, podcast host, paranormal investigator. Please check out her links at the bottom of this episode. She has many, many books out. They're all great reads. Thank you for stopping by. I'm your host, Al Cooley, Ghost in the Valley podcast.